Hi everyone. So, in this short interview, I talked to Joshua Paterson, founder of the Service Please podcast. Josh has been working in the hospitality industry for over 10 years. And in his podcast, he talks to all the great people in the industry, whether they're in tech, food producers, or restaurateurs. In this interview, he tells us what motivated him to start his own video podcast and all the things he had to learn along the way. He also explains how working with me helped him maximize the potential of his video podcast to reach larger audience and increase engagement. I hope you enjoy listening.
I've been working in the hospitality sector for over 10 years. And I think during the pandemic, there was obviously a little bit of a gap in it, and the industry completely changed. And I wanted to have a little bit more outreach and to be able to have a conversation with an audience in which maybe I wasn't already having, because I was quite a closed community and things like that. So I decided to start a podcast called Service Please. And the whole idea in which I wanted to achieve was to reach more people. Now, I had some understanding of marketing, SEO, all of these kind of things. However, it was something in which I was still not 100% confident in. So I understood that I need to find someone to be able to guide me and help me through that process, and to be able to make sure that I was able to achieve the goals in which I wanted to achieve. So the whole precedent of Service Please is all about talking to great people within hospitality, makers of all parts of the sector. So when it comes to tech, producers of food, or even restaurateurs, I go and interview them, eat some food, and then bring that story to life. But as I said, it was great to be able to find B, to be able to actually bring all of that kind of stuff together. So I would go out and do the video recording, but then we together would break down the interviews. We'd be able to analyze where we'd be able to get questions from, put these onto all different media streams. So I'm putting it out onto LinkedIn, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, and YouTube itself. So we'd be able to break all of these things down and then create different SEO hashtags and also editing for all those mediums, because obviously they all of those audiences desire a different kind of aspect. So that was where
Yeah.
B came in and flourished. One of the biggest things is obviously with doing a podcast, and why I think it's helpful and extremely helpful to be able to have someone else on board, is it consumes a lot of time. Now, probably a lot more time than what I would ever have anticipated at the beginning, which has probably been one of the biggest challenges. And I think that's why it's been so great to have someone to be able to help in that kind of respect. Going out, recording the podcast itself, you're like, okay, that's absolutely fine. But to be able to create the questions, read up behind and background, because obviously some of the times you're having interviews with subjects or people which you might not be completely and utterly like adverse in or understand. Before you even get to the interview, it can be a day and a half. You then need to obviously go through all the interview, break these questions down, do editing, do everything like that. So for something that for me is a passion project in primarily, but obviously if it gets to the point in which I am able to build audience, get out, get more reach, it's something in which can take 3-4 days worth of my time. And to give you context, I have other kiosk models around the city. So I have not only a full-time job, I'm managing a number of people and stuff like that. And I'm also trying to expand actually that business. So the biggest thing is it allows actually for me to be able to really fully enjoy the idea of this podcast, I think, more than anything, because I do the recording, I do the fun bits and everything like that. Yes, I bringing all the questions together and everything else. I'm like, oh, okay, that does take a bit of time. But I think if I was doing everything, we're now on nearly 40 episodes of the podcast, right? So I think honestly, if I was doing it by myself, I would have probably got to about 3. I really honestly mean that, because it's just like, not because I'm not driven or desire or anything like that. It's just like, it was so out of my comfort zone that it's just like, it would have just been continued to be pushed to the back burner and things like that. So B basically has enabled it to be able to continue. And I think that actually is where the true essence of it is. Because if anyone knows anything about social media or content creation, the reality is sometimes it's not about being the best, it's not about being the first, it's just about being consistent and actually continuing to put stuff out. So that's actually where I think that where this has been a really, really great professional relationship.
But we were talking about that the other day, the 90% of people who give up their podcast after the third episode. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a crazy figure. And then I think again, it's like 90% after three. And then I think it's then only another and then it's only like another 5% of that 10% get to 20 episodes.
Yes.
So if you like are past 20 episodes, you're like you're in the 1% basically of podcast makers, basically. Speaking personally, when you are in any sort of professional job, you get better at what you do, hopefully, if you continue to progress and learn new avenues or new ways of basically doing things. Now, what's been fantastic, again, like I said, if I was doing this completely by myself, I probably would have stopped because I don't have the time to be able to put the energy into it. What I've noticed is with the journey in which I've had with B, not only has it enabled the situation for the podcast and for everything to be able to continue, but B also is continuing to learn her craft, her skill. So that is even more developing each time. So we started and I was really happy with what we were releasing at that point. But in that 6 months, it's only got better. Like the editing has got better, the way in which the SEO is put together, the way in which the different mediums, because obviously, you know, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, all of these, there's still new platforms in which are developing. So when there is a change that comes into these platforms, B is very reactive at learning how to be able to get the best out of those changes for the podcast as well.
Thanks, Josh.
No problem.
I really, really love your episodes though as well. Love working on them. They're so interesting.
No, they're good fun. They are good fun. I
They
think
are.
it does take people to different spaces, and you know, and this is why I wanted to be able to have this conversation. You know, the food and hospitality industry, it's now become such an integral part of people's lives. It's the fabric of the world, right? A lot of people don't think anything more beyond sitting at a lot of people sitting at a dinner table, having a food, having a glass of wine. They don't think about they might think, oh, that bartender, that's cool how that drink's been made, or oh, that's cool how that chef's done that. But there's so many more journeys before and after that whole experience. So I think it's about bringing that whole thing to life.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Now I'm left with a huge list of restaurants to try as well in London.
Yeah,
Out of that, so that's
yeah.
great.
Yeah, no, it's really good. So obviously I have this little thing at the end of each interview where I'm just like, tell me your favorite restaurant, maybe one that people don't know about, because obviously everyone knows the ones that are really in vogue, you know, the ones that are Instagram, the ones that are here, but everyone's got a really local Thai restaurant or a really, really local cafe that they love and stuff like that. And then I ask if there's anyone in which they would like to take in particular. And sometimes that's like maybe a famous restaurateur, or maybe someone in which they would learn something from, or maybe it's their favorite musician, like anything like that. So normally there's a good little bit of fun and a bit of story that comes to the end of it. And also the listener can learn something that they might not know, especially if they like that type of stuff. This is the other thing, right? You as an individual, when you are doing the recordings, I've learned so much on the journey as well. Like when I first started, I used to do a lot of talking and I used to not really actually break down the questions quite well, or a multitude of things. So you learn when you watch the edit back, you're like, oh, I need to change that. Oh, I'll be able to get more out of that. Oh, this kind of thing, right? But one of the biggest things was just after I first started the project, they hosted actually the first podcast show, which was like an event which was based in London, and I went to that. And one of the biggest things was, you know, they said that there was this guy from, I can't remember, Spotify or something like that.
Yeah.
And he basically said, look, on average, someone listens to a podcast or 5 hours worth of podcasts within their week. And for anyone to be able to listen to a new podcast, they have to remove an old podcast in which they're already listening to. So if you want to be able to get into people's earphones and for you to listen, the best thing to do is break this up into smaller bite-sized chunks. And they might see a little bit of it and then they're like, oh, okay, that's really cool. And then they might listen to a little bit more and a little bit more. So we came up with an idea of, you have the full meal, which is basically the full episode. You then have the snacks. So these might be 5 to 10 minute little bits, and that can go on to TikTok, it can go onto YouTube and go onto other little bits. And then you have these little nibbles, which are maybe like 30 seconds, 40 seconds. They could be great insights into a dish. They could be great insights into where to go, or it might be actually just a little bit of a funny joke, which you can go onto TikTok, which obviously the algorithm really responds to. And then people might be able to find other avenues for you to be able to go to. So yeah, and this is part of the thing, right? It's a constant journey of evolution and learning and actually understanding what industry trends are at this moment in time. And I think, again, that's why I said it's great to have someone like B on board, because I might not be constantly be listening to all of these things. I'm having fun speaking to people making it. And then obviously B's like, right, okay, I've heard on TikTok that it's really good that they're turning it to, or like the younger generations using it as the new version of Google. So we need to basically show people how to do this, or we need to do that. So then it's just, like I said, it's a constant evolution. So
Yes,
it's good.
yeah. And I must admit, though, I quite like the fact, and I think that's really important for someone who is considering starting a podcast or already having one. You don't get discouraged by, starting it slow or anything. You know that you have to put the work behind it and then just build it slowly to what it's going to be, basically. And I think that's a very important thing as well, that you understand that really well, and you committed to your podcast, really.
Yeah, I think look, everyone always, when they start anything, wants and believe it's going to be an overnight success, and I think that's really important in some respects, because it normally gets you across the line. You're like, okay, let's do it. But the reality is, yeah, it's really low and slow, and it does take its time. But as we referred to, 90% of people only make 3 podcasts. So if you can go past that point and continue and put it into your schedule, put it into your day, then I think that's great. But I wouldn't be disheartened by, I've learned so much when it comes to the recording, when the video, when it comes to the sound, all of those things. So I would say, have a little bit of a research. That's what I did. I had an SLR camera. I started with that. Then I learned with the editing, actually, it's really good to actually have 2 cameras, because if, something goes wrong, someone doesn't say anything great, you can switch between shots. So I think that's actually a really good thing to be able to do. So for me, instead of buying a second SLR camera, luckily, your phones are pretty good. And the craziest thing is, the recording on my iPhone actually is probably a better quality than the SLR camera. So I set up that on both, one on me, one on the other person. I have lav mics, which you can get Rode as a really good mate. You have those, they're attached. And then you just basically do the recording. And it's really, really good. Obviously, I know the biggest thing is make sure that you are recording. It's always quite scary of that situation. So always do make sure of that. Luckily, with the Rode mics, they actually have an internal mic. So you can have the setting that even if it's on, say you did press forget record on the camera or anything like that, actually it keeps the sound. So at least you'd always have the sound. So that's what a podcast is all about. And yeah, don't be disheartened. Just learn. And the thing is, sometimes, like I said, you make mistakes. You're like, oh my God, that doesn't even look that good. That can't be like that. And it's like, but if you don't do that, you don't know how to then make it look better.
Right.
I think that's the biggest thing. And we got a lot of inspiration from, I think Diary of a CEO, when we started this, was probably the biggest up and coming podcast. And we used a lot of references from that. And I think that's a really, really good thing to be able to do, because for whatever reason, people really like it. They're responding to it. And that was even like learning about having 2 cameras set up and being able to switch between, and the kind of medium and even the kind of conversation and what people want to learn about. Like, everyone wants, it seems in this day and age, to be an entrepreneur, learn about business, start a business. So if you can just angle the questions at how people have got that, and the difference is that, something like Diary of a CEO, these people that are being interviewed are some of the most successful people in the world. So you have to be a lot more real. Like, it's sort of like that spectrum, that bell curve, right? If that's the top 1%, that doesn't mean that only those people want to be sort of spoken to. The normal people that are starting normal businesses, that are just doing normal things, actually, I think that's probably even more beautiful, that actually people can be like, okay, so that's how that's it, that has that is. So I think, don't be disheartened by thinking that your show isn't relevant or anything like that. Just keep on going at it, and just enjoy it, just have fun. And I think normally those things follow after that, right?
Yeah, no, you're completely right. I think, yeah, you can tell that you're having fun in doing it, though.
Mm.
And obviously, yeah, because you always bring the best out of your guests as well. So,
Yeah,
that's,
well, yeah, I think I'm, like I said, one of the things I would say is the reason why I did think, oh, let's start a podcast, let's start the recording. um People have always said, I am quite a good speaker, I'm quite good at being able to make people feel comfortable and confident in situations. So I think that's something in which, I'm quite lucky that for what reason I've got those kind of communication skills. But I definitely, but also as well, you know, for the start of the podcast, I was going to say a lot of these people are people which I've known for a few years, which makes it a lot easier. I think the real test is when I've interviewed people, which it's the first time I've ever met and stuff like that. And the funny thing is, actually, I think those were some of the best interviews because there's no back history. And what I mean by that is, it's like, actually, I really brought my A game for that kind of thing. You do even more research, you think about it even more. Whereas, like, when it's like a friend, you're like, oh, I'm just going to go and chat to this person. Do I really actually need to bother about thinking about this because I know everything? Or, you get into a self sense of confidence. So yeah, it's an interesting one.
nice mix.
Meeting friends is good, I think, to get started, but I think actually the real good stuff comes when you're meeting people that you don't know who they are, or you've never met
Yeah.
them. You more admire the business in which they're doing, or whatever the subject matter is.
Yeah, no, yeah. Although I must say though, those little funny clips with people that you know best are quite good to post.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah.
that's, I think, where we've had the most engagement, right? Because I
Yes.
think, like we were saying, depending on which type of media it is, then that gives a little bit more traction and everything like that. So it's good.
Yeah.
So
There's no
hopefully have a
time.
laugh, even if you don't know the people, try and have a laugh and have a good time and stuff like that,
Absolutely. Well, that's what people are looking for, aren't they?
No,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. Life's serious enough. Probably the next step is for me to start reaching out to maybe be on other people's podcasts or something like that. I think that's definitely a next step. So yeah, I think, it's because we do have quite a few episodes out and stuff. I think there is a bit, people would be able to look at the back catalogue
Yes.
and be like, okay, it
Yeah.
does build a little bit of you know confidence within someone else that this person has, is going for it and stuff like that. So I think it could be good. I think it could be good.
Yes, absolutely. No, it's true. Yeah. Yeah, because you've got quite a few actually, and you're on YouTube. Got quite a few on YouTube. Quite
The
stuff
YouTube
and all
channel
that.
looks great now. It does.
Yeah.
It looks really, really good.
With a lot of engagement as well. So, or lots of
Yeah,
views, everything. So, yeah, that's
yeah,
definitely
100%, 100%. I think it's just continuing to just build it and everything like that. And like I said, have fun with it. And it's really, really great to be able to work with someone like you, where it does take a lot of the pressure off, and you can just have fun with it. And all of these things. The reality is, with a lot of social media content and stuff, you'll be sometimes on this journey of this plateau, or it doesn't feel like it's going, and then suddenly you'll do one, and then it will, because you have been posting and doing stuff, the video will just blow up, and then suddenly it puts you into a different kind of remit and a realm. So I'm sure that something like that will happen,
yeah.
but we've just got to keep on working away.